I still feel like it's third and long. However, are we going to get a decision here soon, either way, on the fact if there's going to be football in 2020 when it comes to the CFL? I don't know. I'm going to look at over this article from TSN Dave Naylor that outlines some questions that people are asking about. Are we going to have football in 2020? When it comes to the CFLs, I've definitely been making various updates where, obviously with what's been going on with the global pandemic with COVID-19, sports and that have been postponed. Everything's been postponed or canceled, and the CFL has been one of those events. However, you've been hearing stories about the CFL seeking any government assistance or intervention on funding, which definitely causes a stir because it's a professional league looking for government help and a bailout. But the big moneymaker for the CFL is having fans in attendance here, and definitely it's still up in the air on will the CFL actually get any government intervention to prop themselves up for the season. And then there was also some developments that maybe it could be some optimism that there could be football this season with a shortened season, as there was talk about maybe having a 6-game regular season and an expanded playoffs, and that Winnipeg indeed was picked as a hub city for the CFL, where the CFL would host a shortened 2020 season, similar model that the NHL has already done and has been successful, at least starting their playoffs. And we're in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in their hub cities in Edmonton and Toronto, and there's been 0 cases of COVID-19. And the NBA has also been successful once they got everybody into the bubble in the ESPN Live Sports in Orlando, Florida. There has been also 0 cases of COVID-19 once everyone's come in, because everyone's been under vigorous testing. They had to additionally quarantine, and the theory is as if everybody's in a bubble, excluded away from everything that should help in mitigating getting COVID-19 and have outbreaks. Major League Baseball definitely has been a mess here, but things have, let's say, slowly stabilized where games are still being played. I know the Miami Marlins have also started playing, but the St. Louis Cardinals, they definitely have had to get things rescheduled, and they're going to have a lot of doubleheaders to make it up here. Even Major League Baseball has started to thinking, yeah, maybe we should have done that hub city model. I know the Players Association backed out, but they're thinking about that when it comes to the playoffs. And the CFL is definitely no different. That's how I think the only way they can do it. But it's definitely going to be trickier for the CFL without fans here. But it's just kind of a recap of what we've been hearing with the CFL in terms of, are we going to have football? They were seeking government intervention and just all this hub city talk. And Winnipeg has been deemed the winner for the bid for the league. So the league acknowledges at least that if there's going to be football this year, it's going to have to at least be in the hub city. That everyone's going to play there. It'd still be interesting to know how they're going to schedule it. But this TSN article by Dave Naylor talks about where things stand with the 2020 season here, and I'm going to still say it's third and long, as that we got to have to make a decision here soon, because here we are in the middle of August, and there's been no word yet on yes, there's going to be a season, or no, there's going to be a season. And there's definitely been players that have opted out, saying that even if there is a season, they won't come back. And they're still also talking about getting the CBA ratified to also include next season as part of this return to play plan. It's kind of similar to what the NHL did, but the CBA is also going to expire after next season. And initially, there was word that, let's say, if 2020 CFL season didn't happen, they were going to be free agents. But I'm going to say the first question is, why is the CFL still holding out hope for a short season? Well, ultimately, it comes down to there hasn't been a yes or no yet from the government, the federal government, in terms of get any government intervention. I mean, they're still pondering with maybe there'll be an interest-free loan. I know initially the league wanted $30 million and up to $150 million, worst case scenario, if there was no season, and that's to cover players' salaries, that, and just to keep it up. You just got to keep in mind most of their revenue comes in from gate revenue, and when you're cutting off fans not going to the game, how are you going to make money? And they don't make as much money on TV revenue, which leads into the next question here: is other leagues are playing without support of the federal government. Why is the CFL need it? And it talks about that they make most of their money with fans in the stands here. The NFL still is going to probably have to do this, and then NHL, MLB, and the NBA have already been playing without fans in the stands here. But in the case of the NBA and the NHL here, it came towards the end of the season where a lot of the money that they've made were already played out to the players' salaries here. And then, of course, you got the TV network deals that make a big part of their revenue. Yeah, those other major leagues are still taking a hit without fans in the stands here, but it's not as bad when it comes to what it would be for the CFL here. And then that's basically why the CFL is seeking some government intervention. I could also think that this is also an opportunity for the CFL to look at maybe potentially getting some revenues elsewhere other than just fans here. And then it says here, it still ties into, if the government comes through with the loan, does that mean the game's on? And so not necessarily, because they're still talking about the CBA in terms of, is there going to be guaranteed salaries? How the salaries going to be paid out? Because that definitely is also a sticking point right now. As in, some players would not make as much, and there's definitely some players, I know the biggest names that came out, I know recently, both play for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, is Brandon Banks and Delvin Breaux. They both said they will not come back this season, and I know there hasn't been anyone, as I know locally, significant for the Calgary Stampeders that said that they're not going to come back or opt out if there is a season, which will definitely skew the competition depending on who's going to come back or not. And some players say it might not be worth coming back because other players, given that CFL players don't make as much money as these other leagues, they need to find employment elsewhere, and they got bills to pay and families to support here. And then ultimately, it's like, when will the season start? The consensus is that it would be late September, and still have the Grey Cup come out at the end of November, like traditionally here, and that they would have to have. I mean, his answer is based on where the calendar is right now. I believe a 6-game regular season couldn't begin until late September. So we're going pretty much the whole season will be down the stretch here. You'd have to get the players in the bubble. This is early in the month, early in September. And then you have to give them a 17 quarantine, make sure everyone's all clean, no positive tests here. And then you have to have a little bit of a training camp before season begins here. And you also got to wonder, let's say everybody comes into the bubble in Winnipeg at the beginning of September and everyone tests, negative, no COVID, and then eventually have a training camp. Is there going to also be an exhibition, or to go right in the season here? It's also interesting to note how they're going to do the season, because you got 9 teams, and one team's going to still be on a bye here. I guess now when you're playing in a hub city with no fans here, they'll probably just do a doubleheader Friday, Saturday, or maybe a game on Sunday. You also hear talk, this is talking about the NFL, that all the Big Ten, the college leagues in the U.S., they're all not going to play this season, given what's been going on, that there might be a possibility that this NFL could play games on Saturday. So maybe this would be an opportunity for the CFL to still claim their Friday night football and play on Sunday. But that's just my personal speculation. And then the next question is, there a sense how many CFL players will choose not to play? That's up to remain to be seen here. And Dave Naylor says back in early July, most player agents were saying 78% of players said that they would still plan to play if there is a season here, which is still a good chunk of the league. Now, what still remain to be seen is the players that don't come back or choose not to play. How much is that going to skew competition? if it's a huge, big name here. I'm just being hypothetical. Let's say Bo for the Calgary Stampeders said he's not going to come back. That's definitely going to be a significant hole for the Calgary Stampeders if he doesn't. But I mean, he's under contract, and I think his salary depends how that's going to work out. And then, of course, given that half the players in the CFL come from the U.S. here, how are you going to make it all safe here? I mean, players they're going to have to self-isolate and quarantine for 14 days as part of the Quarantine Act. I'm going to have to say they'd have to do that before they report to their teams and then follow the rules in the bubble as per the CFL policy before they can join their teams here. That's why I also feel that the league has to quickly make a decision here, because we're up to the middle of August, and some consensus say that in the next couple weeks, or next week here for sure, might be D-Day, where we find out yay or nay for football this season, because you got to factor in, players coming from all over to report to play, that if they're coming from overseas or somewhere other parts of the U.S. here, that they're going to have to quarantine first before they can go report to their employer. And then the last one is, what happens if the CFL doesn't get financial assistance from the federal government and can't get a CBA completed and ratified by its players there? Then there likely won't be a season. And the league should immediately look to next season, which I still feel like that's probably going to happen here. Because even then, I'm still figuring that it's definitely going to be tough to still pull it off. Just thinking that there's a lot more people involved when you look at a football roster, coaching staff, any staff of the team there. However, now that the NBA and the NHL so far have been able to get their bubbles and their return to play plans all done with no cases, and you could also say the Bundesliga in Germany also got their championship in with no cases. As I know, I'm not too sure how, I'm assuming it's a bubble model, but South Korea also got their COVID situation under control a lot quicker, a lot more stringent that they had baseball. As I know, their baseball's been playing, so they can look at that as a template for the CFL here, but ultimately it's how they're going to pay for testing there, and it's going to still hurt the league, and that's ultimately why they're seeking government intervention here. But that's basically where we're at. Is I still think it's third and long in terms of having to hurry up and make a decision here just to salvage something, and I think we're definitely running out of a runway before we just say it's not practical to have a season or have a try to compress the season here. There's another idea that I saw in CFL fan groups that maybe they should just try to do a round robin and seed the teams that way, play everyone at least once, and then seed the teams for the playoffs, and then decide the Grey Cup from that way. But it's still remains to be seen, and if there's anything else that will say otherwise, I'll definitely make a video on if there's going to be a season or not here. I would figure at least I'll make one episode of my Calgary Stampeders this month if there is a season or not. But it's still up in the air. There's just too much, you're not hearing much from the league itself, but you're just hearing a lot of sources that there's some progress made on the CBA, talking being expanded. You're hearing some sources about it's sort of looking good that they might get government intervention or not. I know that a couple of weeks ago there was talk about, we'll give you a higher interest loan, and the league said that they could be worse off that way and would be better off not having the season and look to 2021. And Dave Naylor, who's one of the big insiders on TSN, he said, I think earlier this summer, that he thought that his personal opinion that the most likely scenario he sees is that there will not be football in 2020, and that the league will still be around in 2021. But it's still, it's too many still unknowns when it comes to COVID and the situation and how they're going to pull it off. I know another suggestion that, Winnipeg being picked as the hub city for hosting a CFL season because Manitoba has been better off in their COVID situation. Some thought, why not Vancouver, just because of where they're located, it's more densely populated, better climate, because who knows what the weather could be like, and the fact that they have a dome stadium that they can maybe play a little bit of a longer season and still play a Grey Cup a little later here. Well, if you remember with my NHL update videos, Vancouver was considered a front runner to be a hub city for the Stanley Cup playoffs here, and the government health authorities in British Columbia turned down the NHL. So I'm thinking if they turn the NHL down, I don't think they'll accept the CFL, whatever plan they have. So, but I mean, it's still up in the air. I just know one thing is certain. I will not be going to any football games in McMahon Stadium this year, and I'm still not 100% confident that I will be next year yet. Well, it depends on the COVID situation, where things stand with the government and health authorities before fans are be allowed to go gather at, say, sporting events or festivals or concerts, and that's definitely going to be the last hurdle to need to be cleared before we can do that, and I think we're still a long ways off from that. So what do you think about everything when it comes to the CFL? And maybe I'd give little tidbits on the other sports as well, on how they've been trying to be relevant and existing during COVID-19. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, the Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I mostly talk Calgary sports on my channel here and other sports updates. But I also do some personal blogs at Tempe Comedy. And I also do share my experience I'm on the road at a sport event here, which, fortunately, given right now, it's going to be a while before I would engage in putting new content towards that. But that's all I have on my channel right now, so if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, do follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey. You know what you need to do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there for other ways you can follow me and pick up many tidbits on what I plan to do, any content that I plan to make on my channel here. So as I say here, go Stamps go. Hopefully it'd be nice to have some CFL football this year. However, I'm not holding out hope, but at least I'm enjoying, hockey back. It'd be nice that the NBA is back and about to head into their playoffs, and I actually will plan to do an NBA bracket for the playoff challenges. I already did for the NHL here. Baseball is limping along, but they're at least still playing along. I thought maybe by now they would be shut down and look towards 2021, but baseball is still going on, and not sure what's the case with the NFL here, but here we are in the middle of August in the NFL under normal circumstances. We would have a couple preseason games, and CFL, we should be ramping up getting ready for Labor Day. But we're not, and we're still in the situation. I know that most teams in the league are privately funded, or privately owned, including the Calgary Stampeders by the Calgary Flames here. But it'd still be interesting, definitely, with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now I have to say, Edmonton football team, they're all publicly, community owned here. They're definitely hit much harder from this, but we're all hit harder. But that's all I gotta say for everything here. So, as I say, I'll see you in the next video, and who knows, if any more updates, I'll make videos on CFL season. This was supposed to be the 75th anniversary of my Calgary Stampeders, but we can always push that celebration off till 2021 if we need to. So, see you then.